Here on Coffee with Casey, live on WQXO Munising, AM 1400, 97.7 FM, as well online on the Rome Media Facebook page and as well as the YouTube page. Kind of a change up in things going on. I'm filling in this week, but we'll have an interesting first guest as he comes in just a second. But it's been an interesting start to the year as I look outside and see the snow coming right down Elm Street here in downtown Munising. It's always a great opportunity to see what that comes to fruition for snowmobiling, for skiing, for outdoor sports, all that kind of jazz. It's always a fun time when you think about it like that, as you never know what's going to happen. And before I get a chance to enter my first guest here, I'm going to say flat out, my pipes froze already. So it's been an interesting start to winter already. But joining me now is actually the regular host of this show, Casey Ford. Casey, how you doing?
You know, it's been interesting because I've been thinking about this since last night. I've never been on this side of the table as a guest. I've always been the interviewer, never the interviewee.
It's funny because I wish that we had the clip of you nearly falling out the back of that chair because,
watch this. Seriously, watch this. All of a sudden you go like this and you're like, whoa, because my chair doesn't do that. And I say my chair.
Yeah, do it again. Do it again. We got the two shot on that.
It goes really far.
Yeah, so if I do this, I just lean out of the shot.
Yeah,
which is a running joke for us.
Which I constantly get yelled at for.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah.
We can't move. We have stationary cameras because we don't have enough people.
Well, it's a little weird because Brice is hosting the show today, but originally I wasn't supposed to be here. We were doing the Munising wrestling tournament last week, which, by the way, the Munising wrestlers doing phenomenal so far this year. So if you haven't seen them, if you get a chance to go see them, please go support the Munising wrestling team. They are doing fantastic things this year with Coach Joe Dolosky. But we were doing the wrestling tournament last week, and my wife has always been a part of wrestling. And she was in there when Joe was wrestling, always doing stats, and, you know, they would go down to Battle Creek, things like that. So her and Matthew Johnson were on mat 4, which is closest to the gym. And she's been walking around and everything, like nothing's wrong. And then all of a sudden around 2:00, there's a break. And she's standing up and she's just talking to Matthew and I. And she goes, I threw out my back. And I looked at her and said, what do you mean you threw out your back? So she was immobilized for about 4 days. Like, we had to reschedule everything. When I say we, she did. Just like Christmas, I'm dad. She planned everything. She called the travel agent. We're now going to be going and be gone March 12th through the 19th, which is great because that's normally around Big Ten tournament time. Also, it's St. Patty's Day. And I want to know what the Magic Kingdom's like with a couple of green beers.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to say flat out, I don't think that that's the place to go because I do believe that Ireland is part of the World of Nations in Epcot.
Okay.
And I believe it's MGM Studios or not MGM Studios. It's whatever their wherever the Rock and Roller Coaster and the Hollywood Hotel is.
Okay.
They've got nightclubs and stuff down there.
Really?
In that part. Yeah, it's like downtown Disney or something like that. I mean, I haven't been to Disney World in decades. I mean, my vacation experience is usually when do I go out of town for work? I took a vacation over Thanksgiving. It wasn't a good time just because I kept getting sick the whole time. But yeah, no, those are always options in Disney World as part of like the auxiliary things that they don't market to families because most people don't think of it like that. But yeah, no, there's going to be opportunities to get absolutely. I'm
not going to do that. But we are taking the kids with us, so I refuse to let the kids see me sloshed, if you will. So I don't.
It's Disney. They have babysitters on call.
No. But it is an interesting time, and I know like the NBA had their bubble down there and Disney and things like that. So I am super excited to go down, even though we weren't able to have like margaritas in Mexico on Saturday, this past Saturday. We'll hopefully be able to have them on the 12th when we go down there in March. So I am super excited to go down there still. And it should be a little bit warmer, 80s this week when we were supposed to be there. We'll see what happens in March. I can't imagine frost or anything like that in March in Orlando, but you never know. We're seeing tornadoes in December and January now. So yeah, it's been interesting.
I mean, without getting too much into a climate change, global warming discussion, I mean, yeah, things are, definitely more unknown and harder to predict than usual. I would say that.
Yes.
So
we had this where it was all set up where Brice was going to host the show today.
Yep.
So Brice is hosting the show today, and
I got the guests.
And you got the guests, and I didn't feel right about taking over the show when you already had done the work, and I was like, oh, I don't know what he's talking about. So yes, so Brice is hosting the show today, and I am the interviewee.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far into that, let's talk about our first segment sponsor in Timber Products. Coffee with Casey is powered by Timber Products, where they're now hiring with a wage range of $15 to $29 an hour. Email rhannah@timberproducts.com today to find out more.
And I got the other day, and she just absolutely loves what we're doing with this station and the show and the way things are going. So hi, thank you.
You're staring into the wrong camera.
I'm so used to, if I pick one of the three, I'll be right.
All good. Yes. All good, Casey. All right. So before coming up, it was kind of a last second audible. We kind of Peyton Manning this, but you did want to talk about the NFL a little bit. So
I didn't call Omaha.
No, you didn't call Omaha. You called. I want to sit on the other side. But it's not. It doesn't roll off the tongue like Omaha does.
Right.
So
Green 19.
So we're both sports guys by training. So you want to talk about the NFL a little bit going into the first ever Week 18.
It's weird, and I know a lot of players did not want to play 18 weeks, and I don't blame them because if you watch these car crashing hits, and I get reminded every year, and it was Matt Moore of the Dolphins. They're in the playoff game against the Steelers. So around 2012, 2014, he took a shot, and it honestly looked like he got decapitated. So I understand why the players don't want to play 18 weeks because of wear and tear on the body, depending on what side of the fence you're on. With Antonio Brown, a Central Michigan grad, he said he wasn't able to go because of health reasons. And Bruce Arians said that, you know what, you gotta go. And, he gave up lots of incentives when he just waved goodbye and went like this in New York last week, because he was like 33 yards away from an incentive, a catch away from an incentive.
I believe it was 8. He had 3 different incentives that totaled up to $1 million. The first was he needed 8 more catches for $333,000. He needed 1 more touchdown catch for $333,000, and I think he needed about 85 yards.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so like all of them were in reach with this week.
And I want to point out, saying that when he went and waved bye to the fans, he and the Bucks were down 24-10. So when people say, oh, well, he got benched so he wasn't going to reach those incentives, no, that was not the case, because they were down 14 points at that point, and they were still trying to win the game.
Right. And it's kind of a rough break for Tampa Bay wide receivers right now, because so many of them have been injured,
right,
and stuff like that. There's also a lot of negative comments about mental health and CTE potentials. We already saw Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons back out for the year with mental health issues. He claimed that as the reason, and he got a lot of support from the divisional rival in Atlanta, who I believe it was until last week that they were still playoff eligible when they lost. So,
correct. But you can look on Twitter and you can look on YouTube. Antonio Brown has taken some big hits, especially when he was a Steeler. When he went over the middle,
that Vontaze perfect hit over the middle.
When he was playing against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He got his bell rung that game.
Yeah. So, it's tough to talk about. It's always something that bothers me when we have celebrities that we talk about one aspect a little bit more than others, especially when I look at some of the things that go on with wide receivers and mental health and I don't know, the swagger that they might have.
Right.
There's a lot of opportunities there for things to go off the rails, and it brings up a lot of racist and ignorant comments most of the time. But even then, when you come back, the rest of the time, you're still trying to help out a person as they're trying to reach goals. So I know that there's a considerable amount of information coming up. This is not going to be the last scandal that we heard from. There's still that John Gruden thing going on.
I still want to say there's two sides of every story.
Yeah.
We're only hearing the one side right now because Bruce Arians is refusing to talk about it.
No, I mean, he's been talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, not a lot, though.
You can tell he's getting the legal side coming up. And so, I mean, but how many scandals is that for the NFL this year?
A lot. So, and the fact that Snyder is still the head coach, or not the head coach, but the owner of the Washington Redskins.
And they won't release that report.
Right.
The players union is supporting that. Jalen Hurts now is going after him because that railing fell over on top of him.
Well, and remember,
Jalen Hurts. So that's the thing, is that Jalen Hurts, the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, fans were reaching over to like get autographs and do the high fives and all that kind of stuff. And then the railing went on him.
Yeah.
Thank God it was only a 6-foot drop. Yeah. I mean, that's still deadly depending on how you land. But there were people down there. But who did he credit? The media personnel and the players, not the staff at FedEx Field.
Right.
And you got that. You got the John Gruden thing. Another player for the Raiders got busted for a DUI.
Yeah.
Which you'd think wouldn't happen this year, but that's horrendous. So like, I mean, it kind of comes away to everything. And that's the reason why I just get happy and I go watch my CFL, man. went up to the Bear Trap and watched my Grey Cup, and the Arkells were the halftime show, and they because of the Canadian music laws, they have to have him come on and interview.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know anything about the CFL.
You are missing one of the greatest games in the world. One of the greatest games in the world. Honestly, there was probably more excitement in the CFL this year than I thought in the NFL.
Okay.
The plays are bigger. I mean, it's more open space, so you can do more stuff with it. You get the guys that can dance around. It's just amazing stuff. So as we kind of wrap this stuff up, I did want to ask one serious question.
Absolutely.
So yesterday was the first anniversary of the January 6th insurrection and occupation at the Capitol building. Now that it's 1 year later, now that we have all these things that are going on that have happened after the fact, you still see Trump signs up. You still have all these other kind of things that are going on. 1 year later, what are your thoughts on the situation?
It was still a bad deal. I mean, I wish it never happened. Obviously, it did. I honestly see both sides of the story. I'm not going to say. I'm trying not to get too political here, but I'll put it this way. I wish it never happened. And now that it has happened, it's still going to be a fight in 2024 and for the governor elections this year about the way things played out from 1 year ago. Mm-hmm. This is going to be politicized a lot still over the next 4 years, this year and then 2 years from now.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to happen in 24. I don't know who's going to run in 24, but this is going to be an issue shortly. I would say November, December of this year after the governor elections happen, because everything happens in like 18-month cycles now. I mean, it seems like it's always political season.
Right. Yeah. And some of that is because of the 2 year spreads. But I mean, the reason why I wanted to talk about it, because we don't usually talk national news. And I mean, right. If this was a daily morning show, we'd probably talk a little bit more wider range of subject. But a lot of people, one of the things that really kind of missed out on me is that out of all the things that have been happening internationally, yet all the Pandora paper protests that happened after that, the world's largest document dump that ever happened. And you saw people resign in Turkey and the Middle East and everything else. You saw continued fights in France over basic stuff. You've got fights now in other countries where like people are literally fighting. And this morning I woke up to the push notification that the Kazakhstan president has issued a shoot to kill for any protesters that are trying to fight for equality in that country right now. So
I will say this.
Before you go,
okay.
I wonder why we don't talk about what happened on the 6th in the same breath and stroke with other protests, with other issues of revolt, question, and discussion. Whether you supported that insurrection or you did not support that insurrection, I do not know why we are not talking about mass acts of protest, no matter whether how peaceful or non-peaceful they are, against the federal government, the same way as we are politicizing and destroying ourselves over the fallout of the 6th.
Yes. And to me, things that happen on the 6th, I'm all for expressing your views. I am. If you're not happy, I'm okay with the protest. I'm more of the peaceful protest person. Now, was I happy when there was the march on Lansing and people brought their guns? No, because that's an intimidation factor. If you want to protest, I'm all for that. But I don't like the intimidation, and I like peaceful protest, because sometimes it's what you don't say is what makes the biggest difference when you're in a protest. If you're going to bring your guns, you're trying to intimidate people. It's
see, I don't believe in that at all. Mostly because I've seen way too many, people feeding the homeless get beat up by cops, or
and you also have a right to carry. I get that.
Yeah,
I do, but I don't know. Like I still wish it wouldn't have happened. Obviously it did. You can't take it back, but it's very politicized, and it's going to be for the next 3 years on this.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that, just because, I mean, it's a tough spot. I really do wish that we could use the understanding of why other countries are flipping out, and electoral processes that we could learn from things. Cause I always want to know why something happened, not just that it did. And I felt like that was something that the protest definitely dealt with, was getting away from the why, right. Which means that you had an access to, it provided a process to fix a situation. And the 6th was never about that.
No,
it was never about that. And that's what was so disappointing. All right. Well, now that we talked that out, last question for you. You've gone through the segment. How's it feel on that side?
It's kind of relaxing.
It is,
because I feel like all the pressure's on that side of the table.
Yeah.
Because you have to have and like I said, and what we started with, Brice had already set up the show.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the questions prepared. I didn't have to do any of that. I just had to come over here and answer whatever you may have asked.
Right.
and I don't want to say willy-nilly it, but I mean, it feels a lot different on this side of the table than on that side.
Yeah, the prep work is considerably different.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that gives us a chance to talk about our next guest. It's going to be Jim Rodgers, who, if you've met Jim, you've probably met him in at least 4 different official capacities here in the area. We'll talk to him about that as he talks about kind of a lifestyle of service in Alger County. We'll take this break, and then we'll return right here on WQXO and the Rural Media Facebook page.
Alger County Communities That Care is a local organization that offers preventative programming addressing teen pregnancy, violence, delinquency, school dropout, substance abuse, depression, and suicide. We are looking for members in our community to help with many of these programs and fundraisers we offer. If you would like to get involved, please contact us at algerctc.org. Alger County United and Thriving, promoting a safe, healthy, and prosperous environment for all youth and adults.
Hutphin's Health Mart welcomes you. Your hometown pharmacy is always here for you. Customer service comes first in all we do. You're gonna find that we love serving you at Hutphin's Health Mart. Service is still our best medicine.
Hutphin Health Mart has been a trusted source to handle your prescriptions for over 80 years. They're always ready to help in a personal way with their experienced and well-trained pharmacy staff. Family-owned and operated. Just people serving people. 119 Elm Avenue in beautiful downtown Munising, with convenient parking at the front or rear entrance.
At Hutphin's Health Mart, service is still our best medicine.
Winter is here, and that means temperatures are dropping. Is your propane tank ready for winter this year? Call Superior Land Gas because they've been trusted for over 100 years, and this is what they do. Superior Land Gas provides propane for appliances, from your outdoor grill to a 1,000-gallon commercial tank. They have the resources and training for heating your home or office. Call Superior Land Gas in Wetmore to switch or get filled up today at 387-4660. Great automotive care to keep your ride running smoothly. Visit the auto specialist at Skip's Auto Repair in Munising. Skip's Auto Repair, located at 109 East Munising Avenue, services vehicles for oil changes and lube, auto repair, brake repair, diagnostic services, electrical repair, engine repair, tune-ups, suspension repair, and general maintenance. Call 387-5120 for quality auto service you can rely on. Be sure to choose Skip's Auto Repair.
Hello and welcome back to Coffee with Casey. Filling in is Brice Burge today. With me right now is my next guest. It is Jim Rodgers, who, as I described pre-discussion, so people have met you in official capacity at least 2 or 3 ways, just because you've done so much. So with that in discussion, tell me all of your official titles and tell the listeners all of your official titles.
Well, official sounds pretty official, but I guess the first one is I'm the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church here in Munising. I'm also the chaplain for the Alger County Sheriff's Department. I'm the chairman of the Alger County Commission Committee for Veterans Affairs. My wife and I, my wife's the current president. I'm the past president of the Kiwanis Club. And up until the COVID year, I sang in the Vanguards. So I've got my fingers in a lot of pots. I'm not sure whether I asked to put them there or they were drug in, but that's where I'm at.
All right. So with that in consideration, I mean, that's a pretty active lifestyle, multiple job responsibilities. The first thing that I always have to figure out is, how do you organize it all?
Actually, the organization is not that hard because I'm really not good at anything else. I joke with my wife, and she considers it true. I'm not a handyman. I've never worked on cars. If she sees me with something other than a screwdriver and a hammer in my hand, she dials 911 and hovers over that last one because she's sure I'm going to destroy it. So I've always worked. I'm a retired Marine. My wife's a retired Marine. We're used to doing things, and I enjoy what I'm doing. I figure if I stop working, I'm probably going to get old and fat. And please don't say I'm already there. Okay, I'm trying not to walk that far.
Well, if it means anything, nobody would be able to tell what you look like over the radio
There
waves.
you go.
Problem is that we're still on Facebook Live.
There you go. So the yin and the yang of fame, right?
When you're just trying to reach out to as many people as possible, actually that's a good time to bring up Dean Halifax's comment. He comments every week because he's just a loyal listener and watcher. He's in Central Florida right now watching this show, and so quick howdy there to Dean. And there's usually, we have multiple people that watch every week, and then we have people that turn in for specific interviews. But one of the things that I always appreciated when interacting with you is that you really have a dedication to service. And when you kind of gave your brief introduction there, it literally all talked about things that were service related, either literally serving in the Marine Corps, your service to your flock as a pastor, serving as chaplain to everybody at the Sheriff's Department. When looking at that, what inside you sparks the need and the desire to serve others?
Well, I've often looked like it. There's only 2 sides of a fence. Either you're serving others or you're being served. And I have no doubt that I've had people do for me over the years. Sometimes I didn't realize it. And there's going to come a time in my life where I'm probably going to have people do more for me than I can do for myself. Until that time, I like being the person that can help other people get through their issues and their problems. And I think you grow more as a person yourself when you help other people with your problems, because it lets you deal with your own a lot better. You get to see somebody else's perspective about a problem that you might not have now, but you may. Or you may realize you do have the same problem, and you just haven't looked at it that way until you've discussed it with somebody who is going through the problem and sees it entirely differently than you do.
Yeah, I mean it's always different. I call it the video game understanding because you have your first person, you have your third person, and depending on what viewpoint you have, makes a certain level easier or
Right.
you know, it's better enjoyment from looking at a different perspective. So with that, I mean that's got to be a great way to get to meet people, get to know people in
yes.
this community.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that perspective because you and Gail, your wife, had moved to this area.
Right.
And one of the things you said before the show was it was so easy to get involved. It was so easy to be welcoming because you were doing all those volunteer things. Can you describe that in a little bit more detail?
Well, you know, I got drafted to be the pastor because I was a pastor down in Georgia for a number of years. God called me late. I guess he wanted to make sure I knew everything about sin before I became a pastor. And I came up here thinking I was going to retire, and the Presbyterian Church didn't have a pastor. So I won't call it arm twisting, but they asked me if I would do it. So I did that. The Kiwanis Club here in Alger County was notified by the Kiwanis Club down in Georgia that I was coming up. So before I knew it, I was in Kiwanis because they reached out. They heard I was coming. They reached out. The sheriff and the undersheriff had come to the Kiwanis Club for a meeting, and the undersheriff is a member of my congregation, and they came up with what I think was a wonderful idea of having someone who the deputies and EMTs could talk to when they've dealt with particularly bad accidents or things like that. So they reached out. There is so many opportunities to serve and help people up here. All you have to do is be open to it. You hear some people talk about there's nothing to do in the UP. There is so much. My wife is involved with all sorts of crafts groups. She's in the food pantry. She's in Kiwanis too. All you have to do is let yourself be open to it up here. And these folks welcome you with open arms to do anything.
Yeah, to give a shout out to Gail, actually, I remember her being one of the first people that helped expand some of the cloth masks that people were making
Right.
in mass right after the start of the outbreak to help get masks to people out on the west end of the county.
Yeah, there was a group out in Chatham that got together and say we were still relatively new, but that didn't stop them from asking or Gail from agreeing. I mean, that's just the way it is up here.
Now, one of the things up here that I also know too, as somebody that's lived my entire adult life but was not born and raised here, is that people wear many hats. And you have to, because I don't think there's actually enough people to kind of do all the stuff that we do.
Agreed.
Especially in Alger County. So when looking at that, how do you deal with maybe conflict based on how your hats are worn? Because I mean, for us here, it's a problem. Like, I mean, if we go out and do something or speak a public comment or something like that, ethically, you're not supposed to do that as a journalist. You know, some people will go out there and say, well, I don't want to go to the local watering hole tonight because they are one of the law enforcement officers that patrol that area. You know, so when you think about that as a whole, how do you balance your hat rack?
I try to keep boundaries between certain areas, but I also don't think that I have anything on my hat rack that doesn't have enough threads related that I would have to say I can't do this because of that. As a matter, I think most of it is actually complementary. I think my service in the Marine Corps gave me what I need paired with being a pastor to be a good chaplain with the sheriff's department. I also work correction shifts over there. It gave me what I need to deal with inmates, not have a preconceived notion of them. It's when I'm a veteran, so I can deal with veterans issues, but it can be tempered with other things. I don't, and as you know, I go to the local watering hole from time to time, and nobody says, "Oh, look, there's that preacher over there having a drink." They come over and say, "How you doing?" It's all a matter of if you have your lifestyle so separated as a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, you're going to end up having a conflict. But as long as your lifestyle is complementary to the other things you do in your lifestyle, I don't think you have that much of a problem. Particularly up here, everybody wears multiple hats. I mean, like you said, at the sheriff's department, the deputies are also EMTs. They're also volunteer fire department guys, and that's a lot of drain on their time. But they know the difference between who works for them when they're a deputy and who they work for when they're when we're responding to a fire, even though it's the same person. You just have to be able to know how your Tetris piece fits into that particular game, I think. And don't get in a game that has nothing to do with all your other games.
Yes, I mean it's hard to play spades when you've got an Uno deck.
Yeah.
So it's it's always interesting when we think about lifestyles up here, because that's one of the things that I spent most of my time in Marquette County, where there's a college. I mean, I spent a lot of time on a college campus that had more population than this county does.
Yeah.
And so when you think about availability to access and to stuff like that, I do think that there is a little bit of a switch. I do think that there's a huge resource drop the second that somebody turns 18. I do think that there's
Absolutely.
not enough things for people between 18 and 30 in this town.
Absolutely.
But that does fill in with some of the things about volunteer organizations that pop up, like Kiwanis or Lions Club, Moose Lodge. One of the running jokes that I keep hearing is that for people that don't like the drinking options, they're just going to go join the Moose Lodge, so that way they can volunteer a little bit and then have a better bar to go to. But with these service organizations, like it does provide an opportunity for people, but it's not necessarily what people think of right now because of stereotyping about it.
Well, you're absolutely right. And we're, for better or worse, we're a graying community. And by that, I mean, most of the churches, their congregations are older. Most of the folks out in town, most of the folks that are staying in Alger County, as you said, when kids turn 18, they're looking for somewhere to go, because there's little, unless they're going to take over the family business, the family farm, whatever, there's little to make them want to stay here. They want to go to a college and go somewhere else. It's not just Alger County, it's UP wide, other than Marquette that has the college, right there.
And Houghton Hancock.
And Houghton Hancock. Everywhere else, and that's one of the reasons why we have some of the issues with drugs and meth that we do. They have nothing else to do. What do you do if you're bored when you're a kid? You find something to keep you busy. You find something to make you feel like you're having fun. The population up here is just graying right now, and we've got to find a way to have younger folk interested in staying. We have the tourist things opening up, and that's great. And there's businesses in the tourist industry, but you don't have families staying here raising kids unless they have such a strong tie to the community. As I said, the family farm, the business, whatever.
Or a lot of other relatives. That's something that,
or a lot of
that I do want to give a shout out to Munising, is that, like, I mean, it was one of the things that I feel is like a double-edged sword, because it's such a positive for some and such a negative for others, is that if you've got a strong family background, my employers here and Casey and stuff like that, they're all part of a family and they have those resources. And there are other families like that in this area. But then there were times where it's just like, hey, man, the Corktown's gone. Where are some of the people that are needing social interaction going to go on a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or something like that?
Well, we had that, that was a real problem with that COVID year. And I took a little bit of heat because my church made a decision that we were not going to completely close down. I couldn't see it being possible for me to tell, I'll say AA or NA, folks who are struggling to get through an addiction, and their anchor line is interaction and having fellowship, tell them that they couldn't do it. People made accommodations for that kind of thing. And the other thing about, you mentioned family up here, I found out, and I joke with everybody I meet up here that's a Youper, there are no family trees. There's ground cover up here. Everybody
I've never heard it like that before.
You can't talk to anybody without going 7 sentences deep and find out that you either know them, or, as I found out in my case in the 3 years I'm up here, apparently I'm related to almost everybody in UP if I tack it far enough. Kevin Bacon has nothing on me about that 6 degrees. It's just amazing how everybody knows or is close to or whatever. And although that can sound restrictive, these folks all take care. There's always somebody to touch when you need something.
Right.
When you need something, there's always somebody that you can touch that'll be there because they feel that connection. And that's an amazing thing about the UP. Well, they might not, they might grumble when they help you, but they're going to help you. Okay. So I found that out. That's why I was told, don't talk bad about anybody you meet, because the next person you meet is going to be a relative of who you just talked bad about.
Exactly.
So,
with you've had international experience
Mhm.
with your service. You've talked about living in Georgia and all that kind of stuff. When thinking about bringing those experiences to the UP and integrating with what Alger County has to offer, the UP has to offer, how do you view things culturally right now in the area? Like, obviously, there's lots of tourism. We talked about COVID a little bit, but you see things from a lifestyle of service that does present a different viewpoint than pretty much anybody that I've met up here. So, what's your thoughts on the culture of the area?
I think they're remarkably flexible. And part of it's because they have to be, when you're in the service, almost when you're in the military, you're almost always a tourist because whatever base you're on, everything around it is geared just for you. You know, you're dry cleaning, you're this, you're that. So it's almost like you're a tourist in their area, and that's how they live off of it. Alger County, as their tourism exploded, had to make, in my mind, a conscious decision not to feel violated by the influx. It's one of those things. We wanted to get more business. Oh my God. We didn't realize how wonderfully attractive what we had was between the kayaking and the snowmobiling and stuff, that when it got out, we're now inundated. So they made a conscious decision to open themselves up. And it's been a growing thing to decide how they're going to deal with that, because it's almost like getting too much of a good thing because the infrastructure wasn't quite ready. What do you do with the restaurants? Because it's hard to have things that are only seasonal. How do you get people to stay to work if they're only going to be open at a certain time? How can you afford a business if it's only going to be open a certain time? When you open a business like Gallery Coffee here, you're depending on the people who live here year round to continue to support you. These guys can't just be dependent on when is the time for the skiers to come in, when is the time for the snowmobilers, and when is the time for the people who are here to look at the leaves. They've got to be able to make that conscious decision. They're taking that chance that the community will support the core businesses and then still be able to support what I guess I consider the businesses that are seasonally targeting the influx now. But then you have the issue with housing. Where do you have people who are going to live here year round, that's affordable, health services, all of that, when it becomes, and that's a hard balance.
Right.
It's a hard balance to make.
It's a super hard balance. I mean, just from some of the stuff here, I mean, my girlfriend's in the service industry. She's the head chef at Tracy's, but we both worked other places in the past in service industry. So when thinking about it in terms of that you have those influxes, I mean, your budgeting processes, your business infrastructure, all that kind of stuff changes up a little bit. But then now that I'm with the radio station, I mean, this is a 12-month-a-year job. We're preaching 12 months a year stories, so that way we can, continue along in the culture and preserving it. And that's the reason why I asked the question is like, I don't want to say you're an outsider because you're so integrated into the community, but at the exact same time, you have that extra perspective. And I don't think that we're talking to people that are here recently and decided to stay. We aren't talking to people that consistently come up enough. I feel like we're really losing a lot of opportunities to get more firsthand experiences and knowledge to make a better and stronger community. And I appreciate you answering that question, because that was a curveball that I threw at you.
Yeah.
So I thought you handled it very well.
Well, just don't do it again.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, and the other thing that goes with that is not just the businesses, the process of government up here and government funding for things. And because I'm associated with the sheriff's department, I'll just use that. We do things on millage and residency up here, and then we grow during tourist season to 5, 8, 10 times the number of people that are actually who are supporting the tax base up here. And it stretches everybody's resources. But how do you deal with that? And part of that is we became such a tourist-centric area so quickly, we didn't have the chance, and I'll use California, as they slowly grew, they knew how to then adjust what they do with their public funds and how they get public funds and things like a luxury tax or whatever, so that the EMTs, we only have, we have 2 ambulances, we have 3 crews. We have 3 ambulances, but we hardly ever use them. We have 3 crews, but they're all standby crews. You get a couple 100,000 tourists up here, and you have people getting lost in the woods. And we have, the rescue squad that we have, 21, is all volunteers. None of these guys that are on Rescue 21 that go out when people get hit and get lost. We have to get snowmobiles out. We got to get people cut out of cars and things. They're all volunteers from the local community. They work at Family Fair. They work, at the different businesses. And it gets absorbed, but it can get overbearing when the same guys are, the same people are doing the same things over and over. The streets are trying to be kept clean.
The human infrastructure is burnt out.
To support what we now want as the lifestyle that's supporting the lifestyle up here, I guess, the supporting lifestyle behind the lifestyle.
This segment brought to you by the Alger County Department of Veteran Affairs, providing easily accessible one-stop shopping and helping Alger County veterans obtain benefits earned through their military service. Call them up today, 906-387-1635. I want to end there on the interview, but I want to showcase this one comment here from Sean McAuliffe. He says, I've spoken to Pastor Jim a few times when up visiting family and really like to hear him speak more about what he thinks of the area and the people. He sure cares about the community he now calls home. And I figured that you would appreciate that, hearing that. But you also talked about government, and my next guest is Devin Olson, who is the city manager from Munising, kind of talking about some of that kind of stuff. And I feel with the time that this was a good segue to go into the next segment. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jim, here on Coffee with Casey. You've done a great service to the community, and thank you for doing that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. We'll take this break, and we'll come back with Devin Olson, city manager for the city of Munising, right here on WQ.
Yep.
Wow, I barely recognized you all cleaned up like that.
Yeah, I was a mess, but it was all worth it because I got to see my side owner.
Oh, Northern Tales Pet Resort in Munising and Thompson?
Yep, they use fancy shampoo, cuts my hair like a champ, trims my nails the way I like them. Plus, they're constantly giving me treats.
Too bad you had to leave, huh?
Oh, I think I'll be back soon enough.
Sparky, no!
We love Northern Tales Pet Resort.
Book online today at northerntailspetresort.com.
Tracy's Restaurant is reimagined for the season. Come experience some Japanese flair, ramen bowls for $15, corned beef egg rolls for $4.50, handcrafted sushi, and hot sake. Plus, a pound of chicken wings with chef-crafted sauces for just $10. Don't worry, our staples are still there. The cheese curds, the Brussels sprouts, and that steak you love. Call 387-8000 for reservations. Tracy's at Roman in Munising.
Gallery Coffee Company is now serving more than just a hot cup of coffee. You can experience our cold brewed iced coffee with several different flavors to choose from. Or if coffee isn't your thing, Gallery Coffee Company offers numerous types of hot or cold tea. Pair your beverage with one of our mini muffins or an Old World sandwich. Gallery Coffee Company is open Tuesday through Saturday from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. across the street from Puffins in downtown Munising.
The Alger County Department of Veteran Affairs is your one-stop shop assisting Alger County veterans obtain benefits earned through their military service. The Alger County Department of Veteran Affairs can help you with compensation claims, pension claims, burial benefits, health care, emergency relief assistance, transportation, military records, education, and general assistance with all your VA questions. Call the Alger County Department of Veteran Affairs today at 387-1635.
This is the Earl E. Birds Munising Minute, powered by Row Media. A pickup truck was struck by a train in Iron Mountain yesterday after the driver disregarded signals. The truck was driven by an unidentified 55-year-old male on D Street shortly before noon, and the vehicle was spun into a nearby snowbank after the collision. Despite getting hit on the driver's side of the vehicle, no injuries were reported. The incident is still under investigation by the Iron Mountain Police Department. An Upper Peninsula National Guard unit was recognized nationally recently for high marks in preparedness. The 1431st Engineer Company in Calumet received all high marks in their last rounds of preparedness tests, putting them at the top of the Michigan National Guard groups and similar-sized companies across the country. Michigan Tech is one of 4 Michigan universities receiving millions in federal grant funds to fight the pandemic. Tech, Michigan State, Wayne State, and the University of Michigan will split $18.5 million to collect and analyze genome data of potential pandemic-level diseases, including the SARS-CoV-2 virus that leads to COVID-19. The Munising Minute is brought to you by Early Birds, now open from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on weekdays and 8 to 2 on weekends. Enjoy a fine, traditional diner-style breakfast with bottomless gallery coffee 7 days a week. Early Birds, located at 202 East Superior Street in downtown Munising. For Row Media, I'm Brice Burge.
Gallery Coffee Company is now serving more than just a hot cup of coffee. You can experience our cold brewed iced coffee with several different flavors to choose from. Or if coffee isn't your thing, Gallery Coffee Company offers numerous types of hot or cold tea. Pair your beverage with one of our mini muffins or an Old World sandwich. Gallery Coffee Company is open Tuesday through Saturday from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. across the street from Puffins in downtown Munising.
As we come back to WQXO Munising Coffee with Casey, Brice Burge filling in today. I was actually explaining how there's no timer for us to see. As somebody that's been pressing the buttons for his entire career, those timing things get off. But right now with me, we've got the City of Munising City Manager. This is Devin Olson. Devin, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's an interesting time. Trying to fill in on the show. This isn't really my strength. I don't do the talk show thing, but
well, I hear you're doing a great job.
Oh, well, that's good. I appreciate that. So, all right. So, Devin, tell us a little bit, what is a city manager, just so that way we're all on the same page?
So a city manager is a chief administrative officer of a municipality, municipal management. Basically, if you were to think about on the private side, somebody who runs the operations, the day-to-day operations, doesn't make a lot of long-term policy decisions. That is the role of the elected official, city commission in our case. They basically set the policies, the goals, where do we want to be in 3, 5, 10, 15 years, and then typically task the administrative officer with just not only the day-to-day operations, making sure our snowplows are running, making sure the trashes are being cleaned in the park, things like that, but also the long-term vision of how do we achieve our infrastructure goals, which is a basic service provision issue of municipal management. And essentially, a big part of our job is essentially finance. How do we have a multi-million-dollar M28 job that we know we need to do, and we started thinking about it back in 2015. We said, how do we address it? And we spent 3 years finding the money to do it. And it's been a great partnership, but that's just an example of what the day-to-day operation is for me.
When regular citizens get a chance to see the city staff compared to the public officials, there always seems to be a big understanding gap, but there's so many different groups that happen here in Munising in terms of serving with like smaller boards, appointed boards. I know I'm actually on one of the newer boards that popped up just to kind of help out with that. But that gives a lot of time for you in meetings and stuff like that. How what's the balance between meeting with people and actually sitting down to get those tasks done?
So I've been here going on 8 years. Actually, it'll be 8 years next week. I've been with the city, and I have always
on next week.
I've always maintained.
Congratulations!
When I get to 10, invite me back.
Okay.
However, for me, I have always maintained an open door policy. Is if anybody has questions all day, every day when City Hall is open, I've always been willing to talk with people as they walk in. If somebody has a question, call us. Stop in, please. We'll always be willing to talk to you. I may have to finish a phone call. I may have to finish a virtual meeting, but we'll always address it. And in talking about the boards and everything, there is a lot. We've got planning commission, zoning board of appeals. We've got ad hoc committees for our animal ordinance redux, our ARPA funding committee, which we appreciate you being on, Brice. And it's an interesting balance because it could be 3-4 nights a week. I'm working till 7 or 8 at night. And so balancing that and then being there all day to be able to work with the citizens, have direct contacts, be able to basically relationship build with the public is a huge part of my job.
Does the city government have the same staffing issues that the private sector has?
So the city is and has been for the last decade or so been very, very stable. We have long-term employees. We have even at City Hall alone, we've got almost 70, without calculating off the top of my head, well over 50 years of knowledge just at City Hall right now. So we've got that. We've got long-term employees with their DPW, wastewater treatment plant, and we haven't had a chance to really run into those issues. Is that we're fairly stable. We've seen a couple of retirements the last few years, but really haven't had much of an issue filling those positions. I do look at some of the trends, though. We're seeing a lot more job hopping. We're seeing people leaving jobs than going to other fields. So when we have a job opening, we never know what to expect anymore.
That's always an interesting spot, because I know that during the summer there was always kind of discussion about why are the trash cans so full? Is it based on when they're coming? Is it based on their other tasks? Is there a shortage? And the labor shortage as a whole has been discussed with many wrong reasons and right reasons being discussed. But it is always interesting, because when you're talking about the infrastructure of a location and dealing with the seasonality, whether that is the massive amounts of snow that happen in the city of Munising, or just the massive amount of traffic that happens due to people either driving through or coming to the area through the tourism industry, that's got to be a very interesting balance for a city government to try to approach around.
It is. And the way we basically aim at it is that we have a lot of employees who are cross-trained. So the gentleman who may be in the plow truck January, February, March will also be on a lawnmower in June and emptying trashes around the city in July. So that's basically everyone chips in, has a very team-like role with the city. We all do a little bit of everything.
One of the things that I always appreciate about living in the city of Munising compared to other places where I've lived at is that at least there's been projects that have been going on. You've always seen some kind of infrastructure improvement. Now, does that also create headaches based on traffic flow and stuff like that? Yeah, but there's always been a desire to keep pushing and improving. What's coming up? First of all, let's. This is my lack of talk show experience. So, first, let's talk about the existing project with M28. Where do we stand? How much of this can even be done at this point of the year? Where are we going into Grand Island Township? That kind of stuff.
So, in a nutshell, the M28 project is by design an MDOT job. So, MDOT has all of the administration. MDOT does all the contract management, everything involved with it. The city is a partner in the job. It's not a city-owned job. It's not. We don't even have a direct contract with the contractor. Ours is by proxy through MDOT. However, the last couple of years, we've had a great contractor. They've been doing great work. But like everything with COVID, there has always been a lot of disruptions. There has been a lot of unknowns about crews, whether it be paving crews, sidewalk crews, whether it be basically even pipe crews. That has always been in the back of everyone's mind. Baco has done a great job as the contractor. They just haven't been able to get things done this year, as basically what the project was designed as was a 2-year project. But there was a lot of work here. A lot of work with a lot of traffic, especially when you start throwing in June 10th of 2020, when everything opens back up and we go from basically an open runway of M28 with very little traffic to within a matter of 72 hours being full of vehicles from out of state, that's essentially what happened. So it's been a very interesting project. The only thing that is remaining that Baco will be addressing this spring, early summer, depending on weight restrictions, will be water main, sewer main in Brown's Addition, and then the complete reconstruction of the roadbed. And the reconstruction of the roadbed will mimic what they've already done. It's going to be very similar. They've been doing a great project. We also have our multi-use path that we've got a little bit of work to do. We received a grant from MDOT. Actually, MDOT gave themselves a grant on our behalf to actually be able to build that multi-use path. So we will have that completed this year as well. That'll be extending from the Bayshore Park up towards the downtown, and then from there it heads west out towards the trailhead and the Browns Addition ball field. So we've got a lot going on. Grand Island Township, as you mentioned, we've been working with the township. Working with the township board has been great. The last, actually going on 2 years now, is essentially when we started discussions. We have been working with them on extending our sewer line down West Shore Drive behind the Holiday Inn. And we are in the very, very, very last step of all of the paperwork before we can really get into it. So hopefully those are 2 big projects that'll be starting again this spring, early summer, depending on weight restrictions. A couple other things we have going on is we will be doing H58 this year. H58, our Rural Task Force, which is an MDOT group, was really great. They worked with us on providing some extra funding through COVID. We moved the project up, and hopefully between June and the end of August this year, we'll be taking care of the last section of H58. And that's going to be the last of 5 phases on H58 that we've done since 2013. So, like I said earlier, a lot of planning, a lot of long-term planning, where I do a lot of day-to-day operations, but at the same time, always in the back of the mind is what do we do today to help us tomorrow, and how do we get there? And that's hence a 5-phase project in H58. It will be done. We'd like to have done it sooner and quicker. However, though, the way the funding allows, this is the best we can do.
So I got a minute left.
Yep.
What do you want to talk about?
So one thing that is going to be huge for the city, the community, the area is our Parks and Rec plan. It's a 5-year plan mandated by MDOT to qualify us for a lot of MDOT grant sources. We, right before COVID, we had our 5-year plan expire. Through COVID, it was a lot of questions of what do we do? How do we do this? It was just put off a year. Next week, we'll be rolling out our survey, our community survey, which is a huge piece of this plan. Is we want to know, what do people like? What do people want? What do they dislike? What would you like to see in terms of recreational assets of the community and the city here the next few years? That will actually be on our website. Social media, we'll be pushing on social media. Hard copies will be at City Hall, and hopefully hard copies will be at Alger Parks and Rec here in the near future as well.
Awesome. We'll share it on the Roam Media page as well, so that will be
you.
available for people that are watching right now. I think we were waiting for that one, so that way we could put all of them together, because I do believe Burt Township and then another one, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, are all running surveys right now.
Yep.
So if we can put them all together and run it, then it'd be great. This segment has been brought to you by People's State Bank. Wherever you are in Alger County, there's a People's State close by in Munising, Graham Ray, Chatham, Wetmore, and Autrain. Devin, thanks for being on the show today. It was a last-minute pickup, and so I appreciate you stepping in. It's always a good time.
Thank you, Brice. Good
All right, we'll take this break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show this week on Coffee Casey.
Wondering where you can find gently used name brand clothing? Stop by Community Threads in downtown Munising. Choose from brands like Nike, North Face, Express, Patagonia, and more for $15 or less. Brought to you by the Rome Community Foundation, a 501c nonprofit serving the community through arts, culture, music, and adventure. And remember, it doesn't have to be new to be awesome.
Community Threads, now open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 4.
When it's time for you to tackle a home project, you go to 41 Lumber, because you know 41 Lumber has the best products, so your projects will last. Every kind of home project, you name it, 41 Lumber has it. And 41 Lumber has the experience to help you with any questions you have along the way. 41 Lumber even offers complete home and project design services. Your projects start at 41 Lumber, with better products for better results. 41 Lumber, building your dreams one project at a time.
Hey, I'm Maggie, the new manager at Hillside Party Store West in Browns Edition. Have we met yet? If not, stop in and say hello. While you're here, grab a free cup of gallery coffee, browse our selections in the area's largest and coldest beer cave, and check out our ever-changing whiskey wall. Did you know we also carry Rapid River Knife Works? And don't forget your radio bingo cards. Games are every Thursday at 10 a.m. on WQXO 97.7. So stop down and see me. I look forward to meeting you.
As things slowly get back to normal in the Upper Peninsula, the employees at Embers Credit Union are here, ready to serve you. Our frontline staff is ready to safely handle cash and checks and answer questions you have about your account. Our loan team is ready to help out with new or existing loans in person, on the phone, or through email. Our commercial team is ready to assist you with your business loan and the Payment Protection Program. We are always ready to take members to the next level. We're Embers Credit Union. Let's live it up.
Picture this, coming home after a long day of work to a professionally laid, personalized tile shower with rainfall shower heads. Does this sound like something you could get used to? Flynn's Flooring in Wetmore carries much more than the beautiful flooring you've come to expect from this family-owned and operated company. A full-service company that specializes in ceramic tile as well as other floor coverings. The team at Flynn's Flooring is waiting for you to stop in to their showroom in Wetmore or call 906-387-1993.
Welcome back to Wrap Up Coffee with Casey this week. I'm Brice Burge, filling in just to help out as Casey gets somewhat of a vacation, at least a little bit of a relaxation instead. I want to thank our studio sponsor in Jamadots, always providing a great opportunity with their live and local television. Call them up at 906-387-9911 to sign up today. Also, there were a couple comments that I am able to elaborate on. Pat Cornish had asked if Superior Street is on the agenda for anything this week or this year. It is, according to Devin in the commercial break. That is a DDA project, though, as the point contact is what he said while he was leaving the stage. Peggy Carberry asked if he missed Joe Hillier. I don't know how anybody couldn't miss Joe. I think that's kind of an implied statement there, Peggy. So we'll see how that goes from there. Tonight at 6 p.m., we will have the Superior Central girls basketball team hosting Rapid River. That will be a Facebook-only broadcast on our sister station, Rome Media, ROAM, MEDIA. That will be the game tonight. I will be on the call. Michaela Palmer, who has been doing a great job pressing all the buttons today. She will be also running camera at the game tonight, so it should be a good time. We'll see you then. We'll wrap things up, though, from WQXO Munising, AM 1400, 97.7 FM. This has been Coffee with Casey. Have a good week, folks.